Thousands of people gathered at rival political rallies in Paris ahead of the final round of the French presidential election on Sunday. Far-right leader Marine Le Pen and centrist Emmanuel Macron held campaign events in the French capital, and there were clashes between demonstrators and riot police at May Day union marches in the city. Well, our senior news correspondent Michelle Clifford is at an Emmanuel Macron rally in Porte de la Villette, and Rebecca Williams is at Place de la Nation following the protest. Very good evening to you both. Michelle, if I could firstly start with you. Mr. Macron is considerably ahead in the polls, but presumably his camp aren't taking that for granted.
No, there is absolutely no sense of complacency. We saw Emmanuel Macron, actually he's just finished, but we saw him speak for, by my calculation, an hour and 45 minutes. They don't just pop up for 10 minutes in this country. They like to deliver their policies in detail. And what we really saw today was something of the start of the final pitch for the lead candidate. He is significantly ahead, but he wants to get as big a mandate as possible. And doing that final pitch really meant presenting what he was going to do, what his policies are, but also attacking the policies and the vision of his competitor, his rival, the far-right candidate, Marine Le Pen. And he here was largely speaking to his supporters, so they were the converted. But obviously, rallies like this are going to be disseminated by a wider television audience. So he talked about her policies as the politics of hate and of fear and of violence. He said they were policies that would reduce the rights of women, of same-sex couples. They would reduce the freedom of businesses, French businesses, to export. So he said it would be bad for business. He focused quite a lot on economics. Obviously, he is a former economics minister himself. He served in Francois Hollande's socialist government. And that was an area of attack again today for Marine Le Pen. She has described him, and did again, as Francois Hollande in simply a different suit. Well, a little while ago, Mr. Macron's spokesman, Anne Le Breton, told me that was absolute nonsense.
She pretends to be the people's candidate. She's everything but that. Emmanuel Macron, on the other hand, he created a party from scratch a year ago, and all the electoral figures that came out show that we're now a mixture of what used to be the right and what used to be the left. If you see, for example, Paris, the map of Paris, the electoral map of Paris has completely changed. It used to be very big divide, left and right, and now it's completely mixed. So she knows she cannot say that we're the real renewal party, and she has a very hard time with that.
OK, Michelle, many thanks indeed. Well, Rebecca Williams is at the Place de la Nation. Very good evening to you, Rebecca. So do we know what triggered the scuffles?
Well, there's been a lot of division here. Of course, many rallies today, one of them from the union workers, another earlier this morning from the Front National. But there is so much tension in France at the moment, and of course we got involved in one of the rallies earlier, and there was a lot of violence, certainly younger members calling themselves anarchists who were throwing bottles. There were water cannons out, tear gas was fired. We experienced a lot of that. And there has been a huge police presence, in fact 9,000 police officers and soldiers here today trying to deal with that violence, and the police were sure that that would happen. They were expecting it, but they have said that they were more concerned about lone attacks, terrorist attacks that we've seen in recent weeks. We saw one on the Champs-Élysées when a police officer was shot dead a couple of weeks ago. Thankfully, that hasn't happened today, but there have been separate incidents within these marches themselves. Now, as I say earlier on, Marine Le Pen's father took part in a rally himself. He was speaking, very controversial figure, often accused of being racist, xenophobic. And Marine Le Pen is really trying to distance herself from him in recent years. She even expelled him from the party. But lots of people in these rallies today telling me that this election this weekend, their decision in the second round is about choosing the lesser of two evils. They don't feel that they like either of the candidates, either Marine Le Pen on the very far right or the centrist Emmanuel Macron. But they need to make a decision. Many people saying they will back Macron, just so that the far-right Marine Le Pen doesn't get in. But of course, there have been so many terror attacks here in France. It's a country on high security, high alert. And so many people want change. Many people want change for the better, and they want to see things being influenced in the future so that those terrorist incidents lessen. And of course, Emmanuel Macron is leading the polls at the moment, but Marine Le Pen closing the gap.
Rebecca, thank you.